Welcome back to After Dark. I'm Nic Pegg, and for the final part of the show this evening, we're going to continue on with a bit of a food theme. Joining me on the line is Craig Minehan, and he owns Hope River Pies over in Littleton. Good evening to you, Craig.
Good evening, Nicholas. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Have you been a baker for very long, Craig?
Yes, 30 odd years.
Okay, were pies always part of the mix, or is it something you did recently?
um, I used to live in Melbourne. I went over there when I was about 20 and worked for a health food company there for a long time, not really making to New Zealand in 97. And I had a restaurant briefly for 3 years in Christchurch, and then took over an old bakery in South Brighton and decided that making pies would be a bit of fun, and have been doing it since.
My first experience of pies in New Zealand was actually at the Central Service Station in Palmerston North. We used to go out on a Friday night, and the first time I ever saw this vast range of pies in the warmer, there must have been about, I don't know, 20 different types of pies, and the pies were stacked up, and people used to go in and buy about 4 or 5 of them at once because they'd all had a skinful. And I come from a culture over in England where the only pies were available were this kind of very thin pucker pie product in a silver tin tray at a fish and chip shop. They were very expensive and very boring and not really very inspirational. But New Zealanders, they love their pies, don't they?
Yes, very much so. It's an Australasian sort of thing, really. Also, is very keen on pies. America and other parts of Europe, a pie is usually something that's sweet. But although now in Canada and the USA, there are a few what we would call meat pie sort of places starting up, and often started by Kiwis or Australians, and they're finding good little niche markets for that. I mean, it's a huge market, obviously, but yeah, no, it's very much this part of the world where what we come to recognise as the good old pie you grab in the paper bag.
So tell us about the range of pies there. What kind of pies do you make?
We have about 20 in total. We don't make them all at once. We rotate some, but they're all, slow cooked fillings. All the meat ones, for example, start out, as a casserole with searing, browning onions and just doing a slow process, one thing at a time, browning the meat, and then cooking very slowly. We use red wine, fresh herbs in all the meat ones, and they just cook for quite a few hours, 3 or 4 hours, generally at a really, really slow simmer to get the flavour out of them. The pastry for our meat pies, we make a short pastry on the bottom, keep it as thin as we can. We don't really want to feature the pastry, but it's got to be good. And our top pastry in the meat pies always has butter in it, so you get that nice mouth feel and good flake. Vegetarian pies are made with all vegetable shortening because we sell quite a few, including vegan pies, which is a big market these days. And vegetarian pies, in fact, are the fastest growing part of our market, or have been in the last few years. So, yeah.
Are there any concessions to
Tim,
health with the recipes for your pies, or do you just go for the taste?
well, taste first, really. I mean, I don't market them as a health food. I'm not likely to be able to get away with that. So, but I think if you keep pastry as thin as you reasonably can, so you're not eating a lot of it. Good lean meat, and mostly with vegetables. We try and include vegetables with them where possible, so it's fairly balanced. And I'm not saying you can have 2 or 3 a day, but I think they're an okay food if you're just sort of not, that's not your sole diet. It'd be like having McDonald's all the time, But yeah, I mean we make chicken ones as well. We use free range meats, so our chicken's free range. And as I say, the vegetarian ones, I would regard them as a very healthy sort of thing to have. The healthiest of them would be the veggie pies. But yeah, I think they're a good food.
How far afield do your pies go? What's the distribution like?
Not too far. We are really small, so and being handmade, we want to keep our market close. If I was trying to distribute them around New Zealand, they'd have to be a different kind of product, I think. And so it's Christchurch. But if someone out of town have a box of pies, I mean, I've sent them up to the North Island, places like that. But we just need to organise that through over chill delivery people, and it is doable, but it's quite expensive, relatively speaking. So we sell at 4 farmers markets a week. We do Littleton on a Saturday, which is the biggest one for me. Dean's Bush, Dean's Riccarton, Christchurch Farmers Market, Mount Pleasant, and Ohoka on a Friday, which is quite a nice little country market. We also open our own shop. We're in Littleton 3 days a week, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. And we'd have some wholesale, about a half dozen wholesale customers in town. Not a whole lot. We really focus on mostly selling our own.
Okay, we've got a picture of the exterior of your Littleton outlets here, so we'll just bring that up so it's part of the whole thing. There we go. Hope River Pies, gourmet pies. You've obviously put some thought into your brand, Hope River. What's the story there?
Well, that's where my father was a high country farmer north of Hamner Springs, where the Hope and the Waia rivers join each other. So about 20 k's into the Lewis Pass from Hamner Springs. So that's where I grew up as a kid. And my business in Christchurch was originally called Bridge Street Bakehouse, and it was on the corner of Bridge Street and Estuary Road in South Brighton.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Little old place it was. But after the earthquakes, we were there for about another year afterwards, and then the authorities decided that it was a dangerous place for us to be, so we got kicked out, and they knocked the building down. And then I was in and out of a few places wherever I could find somewhere to work for a while, and eventually got a building in Littleton. I live here anyhow, and I actually really enjoy making the pies where I live. And so that was originally Bridge Street Bakehouse, and when after the earthquake, when I moved over here, that wasn't relevant anymore, so decided to call it Hope River.
Now then, what is the favourite pie? I think I've got not necessarily my one, but I think I could guess which is the favourite.
Well, that changes from time to time, depending on if I make a new one, it becomes a favourite for a while. But I think overall, I really do actually just like we'll make steak and red wine pie, and I just think that sort of meat works really well in a pie. It's nice and strong, good flavour, especially with red wine. It's a lovely, rich, savoury. I mean, I also really like a good mince pie. I think they're much underrated at times. If you use really lean mince and lots of herbs and tomato and things like that and garlic in them, a mince pie is just really good comfort food. So those two I'd put my go-to sort of ones, but then I get excited about all the other ones that we do. So
what kind
we have a Thai chicken.
What kind of cheese do you put? If you put cheese in with a steak or a mince pie, what sort of cheese do you use?
We use a tasty cheese, usually Minehan or one of the good brands like that, yeah.
It sounds like you're doing a premium pie there, Craig. How much do they cost?
Well, they retail for between $7 and $8. So they're not a cheap item, but I don't sort of worry about that too much these days. It used to be hard to sell a pie that was expensive years ago, but these days, if the pie's good enough, it's okay. And if you're using butter and good quality cheese and all that sort of thing, it's quite expensive. So, and the time, there's a lot of labour in making them. We do everything by hand, but pastry, the whole lot. So that's what we normally sell them for, and we don't sort of seem to have a problem with that.
So how many do you make a week?
Well, it varies depending on my wholesale customers, and also the weather affects us a lot with the markets. But on a good week, about 1,000 or so. Yep.
And how many employees?
I'm myself full time, and I've got people in markets. They do a few hours every weekend. In all, I count them as well. There's about 5 of us, but some of them just do market day. So working in the bakery, there's 3 of us. Myself full time, and the other 2 do about a 30-hour week each.
Okay, well, one thing I'd like to do is actually try some of your pies and review them, not on the program, but online on our page, so that we can. I'll maybe take a photograph, cut a pie in half, so you can see the the ingredients, and then try them and write up some reviews for you.
Yep, jolly good. Sounds good to me.
That's great, because I should eat fewer pies than I do, and I try to be sensible about it. But I think in this case we'll just do one a week, and see how we go.
Yeah, well, I'm unlikely to dissuade you from eating pies, so.
Hey, Craig, Minehan from Hope River Pies over in Littleton. Go and see them. They're open. Was it 3 days a week there?
Yes, we're open at the actual where the bakery is on Norwich Quay on Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, and we're at the Littleton Farmers Market on Saturday as well. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you have a good evening, Craig, and I'll talk to you off air. Well, not now, but tomorrow, about the delivery of the first pie for review.
We'll get that organised. Okay. Thank you, Nicholas.
Cheers, Craig. Good night to you.
Bye-bye.
Right, we're going to maybe get into a bit of talkback now, I hope. You can give us a call on 022 659 2401. I'll just give you that number again, 022 659 2401. We'll go to a little break, and because I need a little break, and we'll be back shortly, hopefully with a couple of calls here on After Dark.